Stop manufacturing I am statements in the hope that noise will produce knowing. Identity is not a product of words. Be still and know that I am God. Not be loud, not be clever, not stack phrases like bricks to build a Babel toward heaven. The I you are seeking to affirm does not rise out of syllables. It reveals itself when speech has fallen into holy quiet, when the heart has ceased trying to make a God out of language. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions, said the Master, for he knew that repetition is not realization. The river of spirit does not flow because we pound the surface with our fists. It flows when the bed is cleared and we let it run. When you say I, where do you put it? In the head, in the chest, in the spine, here, there? No. When I say I, how are you going to localize that? If I point to the breast, am I there? If I point to the skull, am I there? No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. If this is so, and it is, then do you see why cranking out, I am strong, I am rich, I am safe, cannot disclose the I that is before language and beyond place? The true I is spiritual and non-local, never confined, never caged, never in a second power. In him we live and move and have our being. That is not a slogan. It is a fact awaiting your silence. You have been taught to pep talk the soul. You have been urged to self-hypnosis. I cannot give you that because it is not God. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. This hour is not for manipulation but for revelation. If we come with will, we come as thieves to a door that opens only to love. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, not the God of strong words, not the God of techniques, not the God of a mind that wants to control. We will not tamper with the law. We will not try to use spirit as if it were a tool in our kit. Spirit uses us. The Father within doeth the works. I offer you a quiet, testable way, not a belief to hold, not a chant to force, but a presence to which we yield. We shall set aside verbal striving and invite realization. We will discover together that my conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea, and that this is not a philosophy, but an event in awareness. It is what I have called in my own practice the click, the gentle, inner assurance, without sound or spectacle, in which the self stands revealed as one with God. It is not emotional surge. It is not mental certainty. It is the hush after wind, the still small voice that is not in the earthquake, nor in the fire, but in the silence. Let me ask you once more. When you say I, are you naming a creature inside a rib cage, or are you acknowledging the one life that speaks as you? If you are naming the creature, your affirmations will declare separation and then attempt to bridge it with words. That is a second power trap. If, however, you yield the tongue to quiet and turn attention to God alone, then I and my Father are one ceases to be a recital and becomes realization. The difference is between pointing at bread and eating it. One talks of nourishment, the other lives. So our agreement as we begin is humility. We will be receptive. We will treat this as holy work, ethically serious, not for getting but for knowing, not for superiority but for surrender. We seek not a technique but the kingdom that is within you. We shall expose why affirmations fail when they attempt to manufacture God, and we will walk gently and precisely toward that inner click of union. Then out from that oneness, guidance flows. Healing flows. Sufficiency flows, not because we said it, but because we stopped saying and knew, be still and no. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, yes, but as acknowledgement, not as magic. Let us consent now to the silence that reveals the true I, and let identity announce itself where words end. Now let us look straight at the trap and call it by its right name, second power. What is second power? It is the habit of making a power out of words, out of syllables, out of techniques, as if the infinite required a little shove from the finite, as if God were waiting for our verbal match to light his sun. No, no. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Not a God of sounds, not a God of sentences, not a God of mental gymnastics. The moment we believe the utterance does the work, we have introduced a rival to the one, and the mind, now split, cannot hear the whisper that would have guided it. Understand this, please. God is not in need of help, not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. When we take a phrase and then treat it as a lever to pry open heaven, we are engaged in a subtle idolatry. We have placed confidence in the instrument rather than the musician. And the law answers us not with punishment, but with consequence. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow separation, God on one side, your sentence on the other, your will somewhere in between, and you will reap a sense of strain and delay. Sow noise, and you will reap the inability to register the still small voice. Self-will shouts, spirit whispers, and noise cannot hear guidance. Think of traffic law. The light is red. You do not argue it green by reciting a line. You do not chant the car forward through cross traffic. You obey, not because a policeman will be offended, but because the law is impersonal and protective. Or think of mathematics. 2 times 2 is 4. Whisper it or shout it, decorate it with gold leaf, and still it remains 4. Violate it in your calculations, and you have built a bridge that will not hold. It is the same with this spiritual law. It is impersonal. It is universal. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. When you try to use it to get for a self you have imagined, in a body you have localized, the very division you believe in will frustrate you. The law will not bend to your noise. It bends you to its order, or you bear the fruit of confusion until you consent. Why does hype collapse? Because hype is a wind that tries to blow the sea into shape, and the sea of spirit answers only to the moon of God's own presence. The soul's tides rise in silence, not in storm. Let your words be few. When the mind is full of slogans, there is no room for the word. When the ear is filled with its own voice, there is no hearing. The Master did not promise, shout and you will be heard. He said, your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. That is one power, self-acting, self-revealing, self-fulfilling. So let us correct the intent. We do not use God. God uses us. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. If a violin imagines it can play itself by repeating, I am symphony, I am symphony, there will be squeaks and splinters, but place it in the hands of the maestro, quiet, tuned, and it will pour forth music it could never plan. The difference is not cleverness, it is yieldedness. This is why in moments of true prayer there is often one phrase only, softly acknowledged, not to coerce but to consent. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, not my words, not my will, thy grace. And even that, if used as a charm, becomes second power. The phrase is holy only as it stills the tongue and opens the heart to the one. Do not tamper with this law as if it were a tool to turn upon your neighbor or your circumstance. It is a double-edged sword. When you set up a second power you cut yourself off from the flow that already is. But when you rest from using and dare to be used, when you are absent from the body in your thought and present with the Lord, When you consent to be the instrument and release the actor, then the division ceases. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. There is no second power in that. There is only one presence, one life, one infinite activity unfolding itself. And in that humility, the click will come, not because you forced it with syllables, but because you stopped building altars to words and returned to the living God. Where is this I you keep affirming? If I put a finger to the chest, have I found it? If I touch the temple, is it there? If I scan the length of this arm, can I catch it? No, no. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. They have not lifted a rib and discovered a person. They have found organs, chemistry, structure, marvels of design, but no I. I am not in the physical. Hear it. Let it correct the habit of centuries. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. If the I were in the body, then identity would come and go with blood sugar and barometer, with birthdays and biopsies. But the I is not in the body. The body appears in the awareness of I. Consider your own continuity. The face in your photographs is not one face. The voice on old recordings is not one voice. They shift like clouds. You call the child me, the youth me, the gray-haired one me. What is the unchanging witness that says me through all that? It is not cartilage. It is not pigment. It is not the nervous system. For in deepest sleep you remain you without reference to thought or motion. Before Abraham was, I am. Not I was, I am. The taut string of identity is not stretched between the cradle and the casket. It is rooted in the eternal. In him we live and move and have our being. In him, not in a torso, not in a skull. When the Master said, the kingdom of God cometh not with observation, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you, he did not place spirit behind the sternum like a hidden organ. He indicated non-local presence, nearer than breath, yet not a prisoner of lungs, nearer than thought, yet not a bubble in the brain. Now let this be practical, very practical. If identity is not in matter, then matter cannot define it, bind it, or threaten it. What is not in matter cannot be damaged by matter. Geography cannot exile it, time cannot age it. A diagnosis printed in ink cannot announce doom to it. Once, a letter came from a man on a freighter in the South Atlantic, frightened of his isolation, counting miles as enemies. He wrote later that in a night watch, something opened, no words, no vision, and the fear dropped off as if a coat had slipped from the shoulders. I am not on the sea, he wrote. I am in God, and the ship is in God. In that instant, the ocean did not shrink. Identity expanded. The waves remained. The work remained. But the self no longer bobbed in a hull. Do you see the transaction? Not escape, not magic recognition. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. With who? Not with a bag of bones, but with I, the one life appearing here as you. Use a simple picture. Sunlight through a window. You may crack the pane. You cannot harm the sun. At most, you obscure the appearing. The body is the window. The eye is not trapped in the glass. Or think of the radio set and the broadcast. The music is not in the cabinet. It is everywhere present, and the tuned set registers it. So with us. In our conscious oneness with God, when tuning, not talking, is our intent, the infinite I Am announces itself where the finite once fretted for breath. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Then you will understand why we have warned against propping up a body self with verbal crutches. Every attempt to inflate a localized ego is a confession of exile. Every surrender of localization is a doorway into union. When the I is released from the rib cage, love widens. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself ceases to be an ethical chore and becomes a recognition. The same life that says I here says I there. You cannot covet or harm without contradicting your own being, because there are not two lives to compete, only one shining as many. This is not theory, it is safety, it is sanity. It is the end of the small, frightened self that ages by the calendar and trembles before its own shadow. Let the words be few. Let the localization loosen. Let this be your quiet consent. I am not in the physical, I am present with the Lord. And in that presence, ready yourself not for bigger affirmations, but for realization, for the click by which the one announces that it alone is I. Now listen closely, for this is the crux upon which the rest of our work turns. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea, not my words about God, not my certainty about a sentence. Conscious oneness felt, known, realized. The mind would prefer a formula, because formulas flatter control. Spirit gives us a fact that dissolves control, and in dissolving it, releases life. I and my Father are one, spoken as a recital. It is a line, known in the heart. It is the end of loneliness, the end of bargaining, the end of fear. It is the click by which the one declares itself right, where the many once shouted their claims. How shall you know it and not merely say it? Not by straining, not by painting bright pictures on the screen of imagination. No, no, words cease, awareness dawns. The prophet did not find God in the wind, nor in the earthquake, nor in the fire, but in a still small voice. That voice is not speech. It is a hush that witnesses itself. In that hush, without proclamation, something stands forth quiet, steady, unargued. Problems are not solved. They are outshone. The sense of a second power fades. The pulse of anxiety thins to silence. There is a gentle notarizing within, a signature without ink, and you know without proof or posture, it is the Father that doeth the works. This is the click. You do not make it. You wait, you yield, and it comes as dawn comes of itself. And what follows? Guidance as naturally as a river follows gravity. Peace, not as a mood, but as the climate in which you move. Sufficiency, not as accumulation, but as the absence of lack. All that the Father hath is mine, not to hoard, not to count, but as a presence that meets the need at the level of law. Do you see? When the branch knows its oneness with the vine, it does not plead for sap, it abides, and the flow is the vine's responsibility. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added, not seized. Revealed, not manufactured. This is why realization is operative and recitation is not. God alone acts, God alone flows. God alone is the doer, and your conscious union is simply the open channel by which the one fulfills itself in you as idea, as health, as right activity, as love. Now remove the last veil. There is no bargaining in this oneness. You do not come to God with promises or techniques. You do not come to twist outcome. There is only one clean prayer here, and it has no shopping list. Live thou thy life. Fulfill thyself in me. Not my plan, not my pressure, nevertheless not my will, but thine be done. This is not passivity. It is alignment with the impersonal law of one power. The instant you introduce will, you manufacture a second. The instant you project a thought toward a person, a place, a thing, you have left the sanctuary and entered sorcery. I hope you will never try to do it. We do not push spirit. We do not send thoughts. We do not move God. Spirit moves us. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. Therefore, let the instrument be set, quiet, tuned, available. Let the tongue be few and the ear be open. Let this be your consent. In my conscious oneness with God, I find my completeness, my security, my peace. Not because I say it, but because I touch, however lightly, the fact that already is. Be still and know that I am God. In that stillness, without spectacle, the click will come. And when it comes, do not grab at it. Bow within. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Not spoken to compel, but whispered as recognition. The vine lives, the branch abides, and the fruit is the law fulfilled. Now we set the instrument. It will be simple, always simple. Choose a chair low enough that the feet find the floor without strain, the legs easy, the knees not braced. Let the back have support so that the spine need not hold court. Allow it to be quietly upright, not rigid, not collapsed awake without effort. Place the hands loosely in the lap, one upon the other or side by side, resting, never propped, never gripping, never signaling the body to do. The shoulders sink, the jaw softens, the breath goes about its business without a manager. There is no holiness in furniture, there is quiet in fitness. We are making the body uninteresting so that consciousness can awaken to itself. Close the eyes, gently. There is no occult reason for it, only one of physical comfort. With the eyes closed, distractions dim, and in a few breaths you become virtually unaware of having a body. That is all we are after here, to remove the body's intrusion from thought so spirit may register. Be still and know that I am God. Be still does not mean petrified. It means unbusy. It means the senses are no longer tugging at the sleeve of attention. In this posture, with the eyes quieted, the muscles unannounced, there is a clearing, a little clearing, where the word may find you. Now release asking. No agenda, no list. Desirelessness is not indifference. It is reverence. It is the refusal to improve God with your plans. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. Knock, do not pound. Let one soft acknowledgement rise, not to get, but to consent. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Whisper it once, twice, until the mind hears that it is safe to be quiet, and then let even that go. No pictures, no pushing. God is the actor, I am merely the instrument. We are not summoning, we are yielding. Keep a small container for this, very small. 3 to 5 minutes, several times a day. Better 3 minutes of fidelity than 30 of struggle. Come at morning, at noon, at night. Come for a moment in a parked car, at a desk, before a doorbell. The frequency sands a channel. The brevity avoids strain. Just as a seed watered lightly and often takes root, so consciousness kept free of pressure begins to respond. Do not time the dawn. Sit at the window. This is the whole intent. Make the body quiet so consciousness can become receptive. In such readiness, the sea calms and the moon of presence can draw its tide. Wait without demand. Wait as if nothing were missing, because in God nothing is. And when the faint assurance stirs the click, do not name it. Bow within. Let it do the doing. Let it be the day's law. Now we take up one phrase, only one, and we treat it as a key, never as a crowbar. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Not my plan, not my cleverness, not my striving, thy grace. Hear how the sentence bows as it speaks. It does not command, it consents. It does not rattle the lock. It stands at the door and knocks. My grace is sufficient for thee, is the promise. Our phrase is the answering. Amen. The yielding of the branch to the vine's own flow. Use it as remembrance, not as rhetoric. Softly, as if you were telling the heart it can stop running. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let the words drop like pebbles into a lake, not like hammers upon a gate. Whisper, then listen. Whisper, then listen. The function is not to produce an effect out there, but to hush the inside until God awareness has room to be heard. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of. Before ye ask him, then why speak at all? To turn, to incline, to acknowledge, and then to be still. The phrase is the turn of the head toward the light does the seeing. Do not bargain with it. Do not weld the words to an outcome. No, no. The moment you say, thy grace is my sufficiency in this interview, in this deal, in that person's change, you have attached string to spirit and made a second power of your hope. Let it be clean. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. All things includes what the mind approves and what it does not understand. Take no thought for your life. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. This is ethical as much as mystical. It places trust where it belongs and ends the hustle that bruises our neighbors and ourselves. There is a rhythm to remembrance. At the beginning of your sitting, while the mind still rustles its newspapers, let the phrase be on the lips or in the heart once, twice, perhaps 3 times, enough to gather the scattered sheep and walk them to pasture. Then stop. Stop before you wear it thin. Stop before you make a charm of it. When the first quiet begins to dawn, when the breath proves it has never needed your supervision, when the shoulders forget they exist, when a hush like first snow settles upon the thought field, then cease the words. Let grace carry the silence. Let the vine carry the sap. Be still and know that I am God. Knowing arises only after be still. If restlessness returns, if thought tumbles over itself like a brook in spate, do not fight, do not scold. With the tenderness of a mother turning down a child's bed, draw the cover of the phrase again. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, not by might nor by power. And again, lay it down. This is not hypnosis. It is de-hypnosis. It removes the self-appointing manager from the throne and seats the I am where it has always been. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. The phrase simply reminds attention to look in the right direction long enough for oneness to be felt as fact. I have watched this 1,000 times. A man, frantic over figures, mouths the sentence like a swimmer, gulping air, and grows more afraid, useless. Then, one morning, worn out, he whispers it once and means it as surrender. No list, no angle. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. The mind goes quiet. There is no vision, no heat, no drama, only a soft interior assent and with it peace. That is the signal. That is the door open. From there, phones ring when they must, ideas appear when they must, supply meets itself by the law of its own nature, effects follow realization, not suggestion. So let the password open. Do not force, do not pry, do not hang weights upon it. If you must speak, speak only until peace nods, then obey the nod. Close the lips, yield the reins. Live a minute, 2, 3, in wordless consent, and let God be God. When the click comes, and it will, in its season, bow within. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then silence, then law, and in that law enough Let us do it now, simply, without drama. Sit as you are, the body unannounced, the eyes at rest. Let the breath conduct itself. We are not going to improve it. We are attending. Whisper within, once thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Again, if needed, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And now, stop. Do not drive. Do not reach. Be still and know that I am God. Be still, then know. We are not summoning. We are yielding. We are at the door and we knock. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. No pounding, no bargaining, just a poised willingness, a clean consent. As you wait, let the small proofs of quiet reassure you. The breath finds its own rhythm. The shoulders forget their name. Sounds pass without claim. Thoughts, if they appear, are not enemies. They are weather beyond a window, and you need not chase clouds. If restlessness stirs, lift the phrase once more, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, and lay it down again. No, not to fix, to be. We do not lean forward. We do not peer into the dark for a sign. We sit as a branch abides in the vine. I am the vine, ye are the branches. The life does not come by watching, it comes because it already is. Now notice very softly what cannot be manufactured. There may be a warmth that is not heat, a wideness without edges, a weightless hush. There may be no sensation at all, only a quiet that is not your doing, a peace without a reason. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, does not arrive with trumpets. It settles as a certainty that needs no certificate. And with it there is often a tiny interior, yes, a click, not a sound, not a picture, an assent. The mind stops proving, the heart stops pleading. Something has agreed within itself. This is the turn from I think to I am aware that I am. Words become unnecessary because the word has preceded them. Before Abraham was, I am. Not a statement on your lips, a fact in your being. Let identity reverse now, quietly. I am not in the physical. I am present with the Lord. The window is not the sun. The radio set is not the broadcast. Awareness registers presence, but presence is not inside the skull. The kingdom of God is within you, not as a prisoner of ribs, but as the nearness of the infinite to itself. In this recognition, there is no second power to consult, no technique to tighten, only one. And out of that one, there rises an interior assurance, unvoiced yet plain. I am now consciously unioned with God. All that the Father hath is flowing right up through here. Do you feel the difference between saying and knowing? The branch does not beget sap by vow. It receives because it abides. All that the Father hath is mine, not to possess, not to parade, but to fulfill function by law. Law, not magic. Spirit acts of itself. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. Do not touch this with curiosity. Do not lift it to the light to see if it is real. No, bow within. Let the click stand as the day's authority. From here, the next thing will be given. From here, supply will be what it is at the level of law. From here, love will recognize itself in neighbor and stranger alike. There is nothing to add. There is only gratitude without petition. Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And now, in a voice the heart understands. Thank you. And so it is. And I thank you. Stay a breath longer than the mind prefers. Let the hush mark you. Then open the eyes without breaking the silence you carry, as you might walk from sanctuary into sunlight without leaving the prayer behind. Do not try to keep the click. You cannot keep dawn. You can consent again and again. 3 minutes now, 3 later, 3 again, lightly, faithfully. The vine does not tire, the Lord does not fail. Wait without demand until the inner click discloses oneness, and let that oneness be the government of your day. Now hear me gently, and hear me firmly. What has come to you in quiet is governed by law, not granted by magic. As sure as 2 times 2 is 4, as sure as a plumb line reveals the crooked beam, so the spiritual law operates impersonal, universal, unmoved by our urgencies or our cleverness. As ye sow, so shall ye reap is not a threat, it is a principle. So separation and pressure, and the harvest is strain. So consent and oneness, and the harvest is peace. When we violate the law, we do not incur a personal punishment. We meet the impersonal correction of the very order we have ignored. You violate the mathematics in your bridge and it cannot stand. You violate love in your conduct and your inner structure will wobble until you return to love. Keep the commandments where they belong, not as Sunday recitations, but as the 2 pillars that carry the whole house of harmony. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, not a God of words, not a God of will, not a God of outcomes, one power, one presence. And then, inseparable from the first, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. No exceptions, no private good. The moment you seek an advantage at your neighbor's expense, you have declared a second power, and you have stepped outside the climate of grace. In law, there is nothing to take, because in law, all is already the one life expressing itself without competition. When I want nothing you have, and you want nothing I have, then there is no friction, and the law of supply, the law of safety, the law of peace has no obstruction. Understand the warning that love makes necessary. Truth cannot be used to get. When you attempt it, it will turn and cut the hand that grasps it. It is a double-edged sword. If you take a holy principle and weld it to a private project, if you say, let me hold so-and-so in the light so they will do what I wish, let me affirm this scripture so the market will bend, you have stepped into sorcery, however pious the language. No, no. Do not tamper with a cosmic law as if it were a pry bar. You do not argue a red light into green. You stop. You do not chant your automobile through cross traffic. You obey. Safety is not in cleverness. Safety is in alignment. So with spirit. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Alignment is the humility to let God be God and to let your neighbor be free before God. For this reason, I have studiously avoided mental and physical contacts in this work. I never give human advice. I do not tell you to sell or to buy, to marry or to leave, to go or to stay. Why? Because God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Non-interference safeguards purity. The moment my thought reaches out to arrange you, to mold you, to manage outcome, the line is crossed and a second power is born, my will. Even benevolent will is still will. It is the Father that doeth the works. Therefore, when a call for help comes, I do not send thoughts at persons or conditions. I enter the inner room, become still, consent to oneness, and wait for the click. In that hush, I release person, place, thing, and let the law fulfill its own nature. If anything is to be said or done, it will be given, not engineered. Make no mistake, this is ethics, not etiquette. It is obedience to the only law that guarantees harmony because it contains no element of coercion. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty for you, liberty for your neighbor, liberty for the event to unfold under the government of one. Private manipulation, even wrapped in holy phrases, violates liberty and so violates love. And love, being the law, will correct the violation first inwardly as unrest, then outwardly as confusion, until you relent and return. How simple it becomes when the ego lays down its tools. Be still and know that I am God. Be still, and the traffic of thought stops at red. Know, and the way clears at green. So let us covenant now with law, not magic. We will have no other gods, no words, no methods, no outcomes before the one. We will love our neighbor as our own self, refusing to take thought against them, refusing to make projects of them, refusing even to bless them with our opinions. We will stand as instruments, not operators, willing that only God acts in such obedience. Grace ceases to be an exception and becomes the climate of our days. And when the click comes, let it govern your steps as quietly as a river follows its bed, lawful, effortless, sure. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things spoken, not to get, but to align. And aligned, we are safe. Aligned, we are pure. Aligned, we are free. Evidence, when it comes in this work, is modest. It does not advertise itself. It arrives in envelopes with foreign stamps, in a short note left under a door, in a phone call that begins with a long exhale. The Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. So the outward arrives as a report of an inward fact, and we are reminded again, effects follow realization, not suggestion. Presence acts without spectacle. Once a letter came from Holland. A man wrote that in a hospital night pain had climbed like a ladder, and he despaired of sleep. Near dawn, he said, he saw me at the bedside, not a dream, not a doctrine, a simple awareness, and with it the pain ceased as if a hand had been lifted from his chest. That same hour, in another country, we were in the inner room, wordless, consenting. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. No message was sent. No thought was pushed. No projection was attempted. No. I did not consciously project myself, and I hope you will never try to do it. God is omnipresence. The I that is I here is the I that is I there. If there was an appearing, it was the transparency of one presence to itself. He sent his word and healed them, but the word is not a syllable. It is being. Another time, a mother wrote from a mining town high in the Andes. Her child, fevered and tossing, had frightened the whole house awake. Suddenly the room grew still. She said, a phrase formed without voice, "Be not afraid, it is I," and the child slept. She looked at the clock and later wondered at the coincidence. That hour we had paused in the night watch. No hands laid on, no mental contact sought or allowed. I have studiously avoided both. I never give human advice. I enter, become still, yield identity to oneness, and wait for the click. When it comes, the government is his. It is the Father that doeth the works. Let the causation be clear. Not hypnosis, not suggestion, not the charisma of a personality. Spirit requires no personality to cross an ocean. The law of oneness does not travel. It reveals. When consciousness is cleared of a second power and yields to one, the vine fulfills its nature through the branch, and the fruit appears where it must. These signs shall follow them that believe. Follow, not precede. Signs follow faith's realization, not the insistence of will. We do not stage a demonstration. We do not auction answers to the highest anxiety. Presence acts without spectacle because spectacle flatters a self that has no part in the doing. So we give thanks, and we do not take credit. Not unto us, O Lord, not unto us, but unto thy name give glory. Our part is consent, God's part is all the rest. When the letter comes, when the call reports peace at the very minute we were still, we bow within, not to a method, not to a man, but to the one. Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And that is the end of it. Quiet evidence, clean boundaries, and the certainty that grace, not grasping, is sufficiency in all things. Now, let us bring this out of the sanctuary and into Monday morning, into the ledger and the kitchen, into the handshake and the phone call. Conscious oneness is not a mood to be admired. It is the government of life. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. In my oneness with God, I find my security. In my oneness with God, I find my peace. In my oneness with God, I find my joy. In my oneness with God, I find my fulfillment. Hear the order of this. Not in the contract, not in the promise of a person. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Sufficiency does not mean piles, it means the end of lack. It is the economy of grace supply as function fulfilled, not as barns swollen beyond use. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added, not grabbed, revealed, not hoarded. Work, then, is no longer a marketplace where anxious egos bargain. It is the place where the vine flows through a willing branch. You do not go to get a living, you go to let life live. It is the Father that doeth the works. So before the meeting, before the bid, before the pen touches paper, go into the inner room and wait for the click. Do not move because the clock shouts. Move because the inner yes has sounded. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. When the click comes, you will find that what needs to be said is given, what needs to be done is plain, and what needs to be left alone loses its false urgency. The day becomes guided rather than driven. You are safe because you are aligned, as a ship is safe when it follows the channel rather than its haste. In love, we discover the same law. The world's love is a trade. Spirit's love is recognition. When I want nothing you have, and you want nothing I have, there is no possibility of war, not in nations, not in homes. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor, therefore love is the fulfilling of the law. To love in this way is to meet each one free, free to be, free to grow, free before God. You will not try to fix them, improve them, or recruit them to your private good. You will behold the Christ where the world announces a problem, and you will stand still until grace reveals what love does and does not do. Sometimes it speaks, sometimes it is silent, sometimes it stays, sometimes it walks away. The guidance belongs to the one. We are instruments, not operators. Supply, in the light of oneness, rearranges itself from possession to participation. Sharing replaces taking because taking presumes lack and sharing assumes law. Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over. You do not give to get. You give because you are included in an infinite circulation. In the economy of grace, there are no private reservoirs. There are only channels. Where you are, the flow appears not because you plan it into being, but because oneness has no vacuum. If there is a need in your sphere, let your first act be inner consent. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then listen. The answer may be an idea, a call, an introduction, a quiet courage to do the simple, honest thing that keeps the law. Let sufficiency show itself without your strain. Decision-making becomes listening. No hurry, no pressure. Wait for the click. If it does not come, do not manufacture one. My times are in thy hand. You will not be late for your own good because there is no separate good to miss. Do what lies gently at hand while you abide. Answer the letter, sweep the floor, be faithful in small things, and the next step will meet you when the channel is clear. When the step is given, take it without drama. Peace, not fireworks, is the signature. Ye shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. And when you miss, when you rush, when you grasp, when you bruise yourself or another with your hurry, do not set up a second idol of guilt. Forgive yourself 70 times 7. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. You have as much right to forgive yourself 70 times 7 as to forgive your neighbor, because the same law of grace governs both. Begin again, not in self-improvement, but in surrender. Bow within, whisper once, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, and be still. The past cannot bind what God never bound. His compassions fail not, they are new every morning. Thus the day becomes sacrament. Tasks are transfigured into transparency. Relationships turn from bargaining to blessing. Supply ceases to frighten because the storehouse is not in time or things, but in God. In my oneness with God, I find completeness, security, peace, joy, fulfillment, and because I find them there, I do not extract them from you or from tomorrow. I wait for the click before I speak or step. I share because I live in law, not in lack. I forgive because grace is the atmosphere, and in that atmosphere there is room for us all to stand free. And so we live quietly, lawfully, letting God be God where we are, and letting our days bear witness without announcement that the kingdom is within and the government is His. Let us make a quiet covenant, not a vow shouted to the heavens, but a simple rule hidden in the heart. Brief sittings, often, morning, noon, and night, 3 minutes, 5 at most. Sit, make the body uninteresting, and whisper once, perhaps twice, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then release even that and be still. No petition, no bargaining, no aim. Wait for the click, and if it does not come, do not manufacture one. No, no. Close the door gently and go about the next simple faithfulness. Wash a dish, answer a note, keep an appointment without hurry. Pray without ceasing is not a stream of words. It is a climate of receptivity renewed in small, faithful intervals. Set guardrails around this covenant. We will not use spirit to get. We will not lace prayer to outcomes. We will not bless one plan against another. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. We will not give advice, not to ourselves in the heat of anxiety, not to a neighbor who calls in tears. I never give human advice. I never tell you to buy or to sell, to stay or to go. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. We will not push thoughts at persons. We will not try to appear in rooms across oceans. I hope you will never try to do it. Non-interference is not timidity, it is obedience to law. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Let the refrain be your key to enter, never your lever to pry. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Speak it to turn, then put it down. Let silence do the knowing. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask Him. Then why whisper at all? To incline, to consent, to bow the branch to the vine, and then abide. When restlessness returns, you may lift the phrase again with the tenderness that turns down a child's bed. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, and then rest from words. The point is not certainty on your lips, it is conscious oneness. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. That, and only that, is the channel through which guidance, healing, and sufficiency flow by impersonal law. Now one last correction, and let it be gentle and final. Stop saying I am to make something happen. Identity does not answer to your voice. Be still and know I am. Before Abraham was, I am. Be still and know that I am God. The I you seek to affirm is not in the physical. It is absent from the body, present with the Lord. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. You cannot leave what you were never in. In the hush where striving ends, I am reveals itself by itself. The click comes not a sensation to be chased, but an interior assent, and you know without argument, I and my Father are one. Carry this covenant into the thresholds of your day. Before the call, before the contract, before the apology, step within for a minute and wait. If the click comes, go. If it does not, do the next simple honesty at hand and leave results to the law. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Keep the 2 commandments as the rails of your going. 1, power only, love your neighbor as yourself. No private good at another's expense. No pressure, no manipulation. As you sow consent, you will reap peace. As you sow non-interference, you will reap liberty. Law, not magic. Now we seal it within very softly. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And then silence. I and my Father are one. God is the actor. I am the instrument. Live thou thy life here. Fulfill thyself as this day. And so it is. And I thank you